Hello and welcome to the video. Today we have a short story titled An Unexpected Meeting. I hope you enjoy. The large chamber was completely dark, and the air was piercingly cold. The only doors to the room opened, and torchlight flooded in, silhouetting the tall man in the archway. Slowly and with purpose, the man strode, hands behind his back, down the carpet that dissected the room into two halves. He was an older man with long grey hair and an even longer grey beard. Small tufts of hair grew out of his ears. He had a satchel slung diagonally across his body, and a walking staff that could easily be used as a weapon. His luxurious, many-coloured robes shone in the flickering light. But what was most striking about the man was that he had mismatched eyes, one yellow, one blue. As he walked along the long red carpet, torches on either side of the chamber began to light, seemingly of their own accord. The carpet ended about halfway into the room, where 5 odd shapes were slowly being illuminated by the flames. Each shape was covered in a black sheet, which rippled with the movements of whatever lay underneath. The man stepped off the carpet and walked toward the 2 shapes that lay to the left of the room. He came to a stop and waited for a moment before opening his mouth. "You can all rest your hearts. I'm not going to hurt you, and you are in no danger here. I have gone through immense turmoil to bring you all here tonight, so I would appreciate it if you would all settle down and hear me out. I understand the theatrical nature of our meeting has you all startled. However, I do assure you, it has all been necessary." The old man looked at each shape in turn before continuing, his sharp features illuminated in the torchlight. "You do not know it, but I have been keeping a close eye on the 5 of you for a little while now. Simply for the fact that in one way or another, each of you has run afoul of our glorious King Ventus II and his lapdog, the High Channeler of Arundel." He stepped closer to one of the shapes and raised his hand. "Firstly, we have the drunken bowman, a veteran who was amongst the last true soldiers in the king's army." He spoke with a kind of soft reverence, as if describing one's beloved older relative or mentor. "He left before soldiers became unquestioning puppets, devoid of all morals and good intentions." As the old man spoke, he flicked his hand upward, and the black sheet was lifted off Balanos in a flurry of dust. The ranger's eyes darted around and came to rest on the man standing beside him. Balanos was strapped to a chair, and a tight cord of cloth ran over his mouth, preventing him from speaking. This did not dissuade him from trying to shout, however, and he fought at his bonds like an animal caught in a trap. "Easy now, Balanos. Like I said, you are in no danger here." Against his better judgment, the bound man relaxed a little, still looking overtly uncomfortable. The robed man shifted his gaze to the next shape and stepped toward it. "Next, we have the dethroned leader of the foiled druids, forced to become a vagabond by her own people. Her crime? Simply that she dared to care about someone outside of their realm." With a raise of his hand, the black sheet lifted off Nessa the druidess. She squirmed and looked about the chamber. Her eyes found the man, and she bared her teeth aggressively, clearly wishing she could lash out. "Calm yourself, Nessa. I am not going to harm you, so you do not need to harm me." Having realized there was nothing she could do, the druidess resigned herself to slouch in her restraints for the time being. Walking across the carpet to the pair of shapes on the other side, the strange man continued. "Now we have the fearsome warrior, a sellsword without a company. No direction and no prospects of coin. Can you still call yourself a mercenary without either?" The black sheet flew off Taran the fighter, but he neither flinched nor budged. He simply looked right into the face of the man walking between them. As stoic as a true soldier should be, I am pleased, Taryn. Next in our small band is the sneaking pickpocket with a conscience, one who only ever took from those who truly could do without, and possibly even deserved to be robbed. Off went the sheet in a plume of dust. Arter pulled back in his restraints with a face of utmost terror, attempting to get as far away from the man as possible. Arter, please, you have nothing to fear from me. Be at ease. Turning to face the end of the carpet, the man paused. The other four followed his gaze to the middle of the room where the final figure sat. Finally, we have our linchpin, without whom none of these plans would be possible. I give you the naive princess. With a final wave of the man's hand, the black sheet revealed Princess Thalia. The girl looked like she was terrified, but trying with all her might not to show it. Her chest was heaving, and her eyes had a glassy look to them, but she wasn't frantic. A princess who would have gone about her days, allowing her father and his twisted sidekick to torment her and those within their kingdom. Is it not the duty of rulers to protect those within their realm? Turning about, the man addressed the group with arms open wide. Now that we are all acquainted, I will divulge the reason for which I have brought you here tonight. Please, indulge an old man for a moment, because I believe some context is necessary. You see, our beloved king wasn't always a tyrant, nor unjust. With the last word, he smiled before continuing. Arundel has always been a prosperous kingdom, but under the smart, headstrong and courageous new king, we were to see wonderful growth. Whether from the abundant mines, the strong focus on commerce and the guilds, our bountiful arable lands, or the plentiful ocean, our king's influence was profound. Yes, our young King Ventus improved his inheritance tenfold after he took the throne, and the only wars to speak of were fought to protect our lands from greedy nobles in other kingdoms. Walking over to Belanos, he placed a hand on the old archer's shoulder. Our soldiers were the finest in the land and commanded respect through their actions, whether at home or on campaign. Our channeling college was one of the most prestigious on the continent, and there was no reason to keep it a secret. Those were the days. He turned his eyes to the ceiling and drew in a deep breath. However, over the years, morals became lax, sovereign interaction declined, and the vices of greed and ego grew. Our king was primed for a wolf in sheep's clothing to embed itself within his court. The High Channeler. He snarled as he uttered the name. That man has been whispering falsehoods and dark tidings which have slowly poisoned our once great king. Thus, I put to you, my band of misfits. His voice rose with passion. That with great effort and a lot of luck, we might remove the High Channeler and depose the king in favor of his young daughter, Princess Thalia. This way, we will be able to remove the rotting thorn from our kingdom's side and begin to redeem our once glorious Arundel. With this final word, the man threw his arms into the air and all the torches in the chamber flared, sending plumes of fire into the air. After recovering his composure, the man once again began to walk between the still constrained five. Now, I know you will have many questions. There will be time enough for that in a moment. But I want you to all think about your misfortunes. Who are the real villains here? He asked as he walked back over to Arter. Thrown into the night cells for trying to save someone dear to you, with no hope of ever escaping or seeing sunlight again. Does the commander's death at the hands of the High Channeler still weigh on your soul, my friend? A fine man Anan was. I knew him back when he had just joined the city guard. He could have really done something for Arunhai. Such a pity. Arter began to weep as the man looked away. Next, he walked toward Taryn and fixed him with his gaze. And how about you? Don't worry, your absence will go unnoticed by the guards, so your men are safe for now. You were tricked into killing an entire village of women and children by our wonderful king. And you know about those work fields your survivors were sent to. A man doesn't last a year there, the conditions are so grim. Those slave labour camps were set up by the High Channeler himself. Your friends would have been better off had they died with the rest of your men than they will in those sulphur mines, or whatever worse place they may have been sent to. Still, Taran didn't move, but he held the man's stare. The old man crossed to Nessa. My dear Druidess, how far you have fallen in such a short amount of time. Once the implacable ruler who above all odds kept the peace between Arundel and Foyle Forest. How quickly did the elders call for your banishment when they found out you had been conspiring with the Pillar of Arundel, Captain Trustin. I would have argued that those years of peace were well worth the relationship. Yet another good man sent into the afterlife who only wished to do good for the kingdom. His face had been growing more crestfallen, and his eyes almost seemed to glass over as he spoke. My heart truly bleeds for your loss, Nessa, but you know without your secret alliance, it won't be long before the king marches on Foyle. Almost imperceptibly, the Druidess's eyes flickered with sorrow. On he walked, pausing once more at Balanos. Old soul, you who have fought more than any of us here, your victories and defeats echo in the hearts of every person in this kingdom old enough to remember those golden days. How close to death do you believe you were when you finally found out you were under a spell? Did you know the number of people still alive who bear that cloak is only 2? The rest of that era of men were scattered to the winds. That's the thanks the king shows those who would risk their lives in defense of the kingdom. The man's face was sympathetic, but his words only twisted the knife further. It was no wonder she left you, my poor man, but there is still time for redemption. She won't be gone forever. At the mention of Ira, Balanos looked down, trying to hold back tears of his own. Finally, the man approached the princess once again. Last but not least, we have you, princess. Yet another poor soul put under a spell without your knowledge or consent. Don't worry, your hairy friend is safe, and you will see him again once we are finished here. Growing more serious, he bent down to look Thalia right in the eyes. Did you know that it was your father's plan in the first place? He was the one who forced you to be trapped with an animal you could come to care for and love. Once he knew you were firmly attached, he planned to have the High Channeler or one of his goons kill the dog. He knew this would finally force out that spark of magic no one else knew was present within you. You may be young, princess, but you have a larger heart than your father ever did. And from what I have seen and heard, you are quite the diplomat already. As long as you hone that skill of yours to detect liars, you shall always have just and true advisors. Turning on the spot, the man walked back down the carpet silently and stopped where they could all see him. Now, as promised, I'm going to allow you all to speak if you wish, but please, one at a time. With a wave of his hand, the cords that bound the prisoners' mouths fell loose. There was a moment of stunned silence as each of them looked around, before a cacophony of voices erupted from the group. "Silence!" shouted the man, and the astonished party hushed at his command. "One at a time, please. If you can't be civilized about this, I'll be forced to make sure you take turns." Again the group looked from one person to the other, before Taran spoke up gruffly. "I think I speak for the lot of us when I ask, who in the bloody hells are you?" The man replied calmly. "Only once you have earned my trust will I reveal my name to you. It would be dangerous for me if I did otherwise. For now, you may call me the Benefactor." Balanos chimed in with a sarcastic tone. "Well, listen here, Mr. the Benefactor. I've never trusted a man who kept his name a secret, and I ain't starting now." "No need to trust me right now. I would think you all foolish if you did. All I ask is that you hear my plan and either agree to help me or..." He paused and looked each of them in the face seriously. "Or I can put each and every one of you back where I found you. Now, are there any more questions?" Quietly and with poise, Nessa asked a question. "You seem to be a gifted channeler yourself. Why can't you simply kill the High Channeler and force the king to step down?" With a deep breath, the benefactor replied, "It may be possible, but it would be an awful risk. I couldn't say whether my powers would outmatch that of the High Channeler or not. Even if they would, no one in the kingdom would sit by while I supplanted the king. No, it must be done in such a way that the people are crying out for the princess to seize power. It is uncommon, but definitely not unheard of, for a king to step down and hand the throne to his heir before passing away." They were all silent for a time, before Artair spoke up, still with a hint of sorrow in his voice. "How is it you know who we are, and our past misfortunes? There should have been only two people who knew the circumstances I was in, myself and the High Channeler. So how is it that you know?" "Quite simple, Artair. I have spies everywhere. It is part of my appointment to know, and it is how I was able to rescue you all from your torments. It wasn't easy, I can tell you that, and it has probably bankrupted me. Nevertheless, I know my quest to be the righteous path, so no obstacle shall stand in my way. I have sworn to people who are no longer with me that I will not rest until my goal is achieved." Taking in the words, Artair spoke up again, this time with venom on his tongue. "Your words prove nothing. However, if you can give me the opportunity to kill the High Channeler, then so be it." The thief's voice became low as he went on. "I don't know about the rest of you, but it is the only thing I've been able to think about since..." Artair trailed off as he looked to the others, then at the floor again. Taran nodded sternly. "I too would like to get within sword distance of that bastard. I can still see my men writhing on the ground at that monster's feet. My only remaining goal is to see an end of him and the newly appointed commander of the guard. The king can rot in one of the hells for all I care." Balanos shifted in his restraints, clearly chagrined at not having his hands free. He cleared his throat before he spoke. "I applaud your gumption, young man, but I'm tired. I have fought many wars in my time, and I was ready to give up. If what the benefactor says is true..." Balanos uttered the name mockingly. "And all my comrades are gone, then what do I gain from this cabal?" The benefactor cut in. "Don't you want redemption? Don't you want revenge?" Balanos laughed. "You should know, such as I do, that life's too short for either." "So you would rather roll over and die, is that it?" Nessa snapped. "I don't care how or who I have to go through. My revenge will be satisfied." "Mine too," Taran concurred. "Regardless of whether what this man says is true, my mentor and 25 of my men may still be alive. I cannot abandon them to their fates." Artair spoke again. "Maybe the old man is right. Why stick your neck out just to have it cut off?" He shook his head, staring at the ground. The benefactor approached him. "Haven't you always said you wanted a fairer world, a fairer Arun High? I know Anan fought for that every day, in a different way than you did perhaps, but your goal was the same. We could accomplish that goal. The city, the whole kingdom in fact, was a just place, once." Nessa did not give Artair the chance to reply, as she said scornfully, "My forest has stood independently since before mankind learned to speak. I will not have the plague of this kingdom consume what is already peaceful." "Did you know there was once an alliance between forest and plain?" said the benefactor, turning to face Nessa once more. "I don't think your elders would have told you this, as it went against everything they preached. I encourage you to read an ancient book titled The Winds That Move the Forest," the benefactor explained, as if he were a teacher lecturing a student. Nessa only scowled. "I don't believe you. All I know for certain is
I have to protect the forest. Either way, my fight is with the royal family."
"None taken," the princess squeaked.
"What did you say?"
snapped Nessa. As softly as she could, Thalia replied,
"Well, usually when someone says something offensive while the other person is in the room, they say no offense to the offended party. I was just releasing you of the obligation of saying it."
Nessa's eyes narrowed.
"It's just common decency,"
the princess said evenly.
"How about you, princess? You haven't said much?"
Balanos asked as all eyes turned upon her. The princess paused, the silence stretching longer than it had since the benefactor had first removed their gags. Finally, the girl opened her mouth.
"I've known something has been happening to my father for quite some time now, but I got to see him alone so rarely that it was hard to perceive. It sounds like you have all suffered at his hands, and those of that wicked High Channeler. It truly sounds awful, but how are we going to make the people of Arundel want to put me in charge? I've always assumed my older sister and her husband would rule once my father passes away. I've never had any aspirations for the throne."
"Now that is the first good question someone has asked all night," Artair said softly.
"I don't know about you, but the common people of Arun despise the royal family. No offense, princess."
"None taken," replied the princess with a smile as Artair continued.
"How do you propose we accomplish this feat?"
They all looked at the mysterious man standing in their midst.
"Well, if you are all in favor and swear that you will not abandon the cause at the first sight of trouble, then I have a plan that will not only rid our kingdom of some additional nightmares beyond most of your comprehension, but also plant your lovely highness here firmly on the throne. Here's how we shall do it."
The end.
That was an unexpected meeting. It is the final part of a 6-part series. Our heroes will be back for Season 2 shortly. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like or comment any feedback you have, or consider subscribing as there will be more tales to come. This was a Tallow Tale. Thanks for watching.